The first half of the 2024 Formula One season draws to a close with a double header, the first part of which is the Hungarian Grand Prix at the wonderful HUNGARIAN, great spectator facility. Very different from the other half of the double header, which of course is the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, from the sublime to the, no, not the ridiculous, from the sublime to the ultra sublime, you could say. Softest of the Pirelli tyres on display. And so straight away, let's have a look at what they did today on the soft tyres. Not representative in terms of all the teams, some of them running upgrades, particularly Red Bull, lots of Flovis on the Red Bull RB20s and some decent step forwards there as well, it would appear. Mercedes also not putting in a massive effort on the soft tyre, and then McLaren apparently spending a lot of time on fuel runs as well. But then when it came down to the crunch of putting in a quick lap on a soft tyre, before anybody had even taken a breath, it was Lando Norris out there, unbelievably quick in the McLaren, looking right at home around the Hungaroring, very rhythmic in his driving again. You can see there 17.7. Max Verstappen had 2 goes. He messed up sector 1 on his fresh set of soft tyres and then went out on the same set to have another go, did an 18.0. The tyres had gone off before he had finished the lap, so we shouldn't read too much into that again. But just as a comparison, let's have a look at how Lando and Max stacked up through that sector 1. This is the second attempt by Max, and this time no errors. Interesting to see how the different approaches to turn 1 made such a big difference to that sector alone. Lando and Max both going through the trap, approximately through the trap. This is before the trap, actually. This is the beginning of the sector. The trap's just before the braking area into turn 1. So 303, 302, and they're very similar in terms of trap speed as well. In 8th gear, 100% throttle, and the other side of the forward slash there is the braking percentage. And then as they go into the second microsector, an interesting comparison, the real difference between the two drivers in terms of their style. Not necessarily saying one is better at this point, but 242 Lando Norris, hard on the brakes at that point, 100% braking, no throttle at all. And at the same point, exactly the same point of the track, Max Verstappen 297, still in 8th gear, they're both still in 8th gear, 10% throttle still against 100% braking, and this for me is Max just extending the straight a little bit compared with Lando. And because he's extending the straight, he's then peeling into a slightly earlier entry point to the corner, and then of course to a slower mid-corner rotation speed compared with Lando. That's the downside. And so looking at this data, I'm not sure that extending the straight into turn 1, as Max does, gives him any sort of real advantage, because the corner is so wide, there's so much grip there, relative grip, because Lando can very easily get away with braking in a straight line as late as he can, turning in relatively late, getting a great rotation point, higher minimum speed, and a phenomenal exit as a result. You can see there 204, 202, this is about the exit of the corner. Lando's in 5th gear already, Max is in 4th gear. They're both 100% throttle. And as they come down towards turn 2, Max has the slight advantage. So that's probably where he's got his advantage with that very slow mid-corner rotation he has to have at turn 1 because of that higher entry speed. It's helped him a little bit on that run, but because of that, he's compromised a little bit going into turn 2. Lando 225 on the exit of 2. Max 222, 271, 263. So Lando has the edge on acceleration there. And just before the end of sector 1, they're back to par, 281. And interestingly enough, I was talking in the live stream about the next corner, which is turn 4, very, very fast kink, where Charles Leclerc had a big spin and nudged the guardrail. So did Guanyu Zhou, but for different reasons. And interesting to see they're all braking there, even on soft tyres. So yeah, that has to be taken into account tomorrow as well. Anyway, Lando 17.7, Max 18.0, probably a little bit closer had he been able to complete that second run, if he'd run a second set of tyres, but he didn't, and the tyres went off. Carlos Sainz 18.1, really good job by Carlos Sainz today. I thought in the Ferrari, he looked very good. He was quickest in the morning session. Didn't mean that much. Again, just got a good run at the right time on soft tyres, but he was there or thereabouts. And look where Charles Leclerc, his teammate, is 19.2, and that's because Charles Leclerc, the driver that Ferrari are keeping, I mean, I'm a Charles fan, I got to say, but this is getting a bit ridiculous. The number of incidents that he has and how good Carlos Sainz is looking relative to Charles at the moment. Charles went off just before the soft tyre runs, going through the left-hand kink, turn 4 that I was just talking about. He'd just gone purple in 2 microsectors of sector 1. He was really quick. And I think it needs to be borne in mind at this point that Carlos Sainz was a tenth, 2 tenths quicker, and it looks like Charles was just going out, I'm going to be the faster of the two Ferrari drivers, and he just lost it. He plain lost it going through that left-hander too quick, and lost the rear, and then spun across to the outside of the track and hit the guardrail left rear. Didn't damage the car much, but it brought the session to a halt with a red flag. And after that, everybody then bolted on the soft tyre. So Charles Leclerc obviously didn't get a soft tyre run in, but Carlos Sainz upholding the workday for Ferrari. Again, 18-1, really good job. And he did a good job on full fuel as well. So Ferrari, well, heavy fuel, should we put it that way. So Ferrari, I think, owe a lot to Carlos Sainz. The driver, of course, that they're rejecting and sacking because he's presumably not quick enough or good enough. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all. With every passing race, with every passing month, that decision looks increasingly illogical. Sergio Perez, I did predict in the live stream that this would be a pretty good circuit for Sergio Perez. I said rather cynically, not many difficult corners here, but it is Sergio's sort of circuit. It's a high downforce circuit. There's lots of grip from those soft Pirellis, and he looked really good. And I think that should be borne in mind in terms of how quick he is in that car. When I said that the upgrades on the Red Bull look to be working, part of that is going to be grip and balance that Sergio Perez is now feeling. But having said that, as I say, around Hungaroring, he was never going to be slow. And if we look in a second at the full fuel runs, or the heavy fuel runs, you'll see how good he was with fuel in the car as well. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton were saying afterwards Mercedes didn't put too much effort into the soft tyre runs. It looked to me as if that's a little bit of a trite comment. They didn't look as good as a McLaren around Hungaroring, in my opinion. They didn't look as nimble, they didn't look as agile, they didn't look as well balanced, but both drivers did a good job, and they were pretty good on full tanks as well. And look at Kevin Magnussen there, 18-3 in the Haas Ferrari. He's just also heard that he's going to be sacked at the end of the year. Amazing, isn't it, how they react when they get that bit of news. 18-3, quicker than Lewis Hamilton on soft tyres. Daniel Ricciardo showing up Yuki Tsunoda. There was a weird incident when they were trying to get him to go a bit quicker. They said, come on, charge off, let's go. And he said something like, don't rush me. Okay, we won't rush you, Jockey, but 19.6, not exactly what we were expecting. Williams, Aston Martin and Sauber. It's quite nice to be able to say that, but we often say that on a Friday, don't we, in the midfield there. That's good news for Sauber, bad news for Aston Martin. They should be higher than that. Alex Albon there or thereabouts, I think. Logan Sargent also doing a good job, 18.6. Oscar Piastri looked very quick and very wild, looked very Liam Lawson-ish actually when he was out there in the McLaren today. I'm sure he'll be quick, but he was touching quite a lot of bits of dirt on the outside, on the wrong side of curbs, and just pushing quite hard. But he did look good, the McLaren looked good, and it looked drivable, and it didn't end in tears anyway, which does say a lot about the balance of the car. And we see Nico Hülkenberg relatively near the back there in the other Haas Ferrari. No real surprise, his car was taken over by Oliver Behrmann in FP1. Oliver not going very well in F2 qualifying on this occasion, so I think this business of jumping from F1 to F2 and back to F1 probably quite difficult. Shouldn't be, but I guess it is. So that was that. Let's have a look now at what they did on the fuel runs. Lando Norris, look at that. He was on the hard tyre, got to say. Everybody else slightly wary with the hot temperatures about the medium, but Lando on the hard tyre, which would seem to be the logical thing to be doing. But Lando 2 laps in the 23s, 23.7, 23.9, another 24.0, 24.0, incredibly consistent. Very impressive. About the best in comparison. As I say, Sergio Perez, look at that, 23.3 on the medium, 23.8. 23.8 on his last lap on the medium as well. So that's why I say Sergio Perez looking good around here. He's found a rhythm, he's found his confidence, as predicted. And Max Verstappen maybe running a dash more fuel, maybe not, maybe running a different setup, maybe trying something a bit different, we don't know. But in the low 24s very consistently. Speaking of consistency, have a look at Lewis Hamilton's run on the medium tyre there, 25.0, 24.7, and then 24.6, 24.6, 24.6, 24.6, 24.7. Wow, brilliant stuff. The only thing is it's 24.6s and 24.7s and not 24.1s and 24.2s. They are saying at Mercedes the car looks really good on heavy fuel. And on the basis of that, you wouldn't necessarily agree with them. Although George Russell, 24.0, 24.0, impressive. And then 24.4, 24.7, 26, 25. Looks like the tyres have gone off quite comprehensively, having done those 24s. Carlos Sainz, level and see what Ferrari are doing. The lone Ferrari driver. 23.9, there you go. Very good. A lap in the 23s. 24.4, 24.5, 24.6, 24.9, 24.6, 25.1. Yeah, I mean, right there, you'd have to say with Mercedes right now. So Ferrari having made some improvements as well, looking a little bit, well, having made improvements back at a circuit where it's a high downforce circuit, some of their disadvantages have been nullified as a result, and they can focus on what they do quite well, albeit on fast corners. As Charles Leclerc showed, the balance of the car is still not very good at all, but around slow corners and traction, if they get the car into the corner, it's going to go very well. So Carlos Sainz, as I say, very good in both sessions and good on fuel runs. Very impressive run altogether. Impressive day from Carlos Sainz, the driver they want to get rid of. Let's see what happens then. A big thanks to Jetcraft, to OEM Exclusive, and to Track Ninja, and to you for watching. See you tomorrow.